Welcome to Five Big Questions. I'm Angela Morabito with Campus Reform. And today, Mark Pukita is here to talk about what he believes should change in higher education. Mark is running for Senate in the state of Ohio and is here to share his thoughts about what should change in America's colleges and universities. Mark, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Angela.
So you've taken a special interest in critical race theory, and at Campus Reform, we've tracked how it's gone from college campuses to the corporate world, the government, even all the way down through the schools and into preschool. What do you believe should be done to fix this?
We need to get CRT out of education and out of government. And I would highly recommend that private sector companies get it out of their companies. It's a Marxist construct. If you understand the history of it, it goes back a long time. It's nothing new. And it comes from critical theory. So the thought is that you can advance Marxism by separating people, by getting them to fight against each other, whether it be rich versus poor, people of color versus white people like we're talking about now. And it's an evil doctrine. And the fact that it is so pervasive right now is really disturbing to me. So we've got to educate people on it, and we've just got to eradicate it. I mean, it's that simple.
And we're watching this fight kind of play out in school boards as well. And you have addressed this, what's going on in school boards in your state. Could you tell us a bit about that?
So I've stood shoulder to shoulder with many parents at school board meetings and have testified at my own school board about critical race theory and just how school board members feel about it. And of course, they never respond. They are absolutely stone-faced, quiet, never respond. CRT is everywhere. It is everywhere. And if parents are buying the story from school board members or from school administrators that it's not, they are being deceived and they are naive. It is scholastic, the people who publish, the books that you can buy from school. I'm having parents come to me showing me those books and saying, I can't believe our kids are being asked to buy these books. It is everywhere, and it's got to stop. So we've been going to school boards and we've been really confronting them and helping them realize that they basically work for the community. The community doesn't work for them. And then the second thing is that we've worked really hard to get the Ohio Board of Education to repeal this thing called Resolution 20, which they call their equity resolution, but it was basically it was like a street mob from BLM came in and wrote a treatise on critical race theory that they embraced and used they're using it to force down into the public schools in Ohio. And we got that repealed a couple of weeks ago. In fact, the president of the Ohio Board of Education just resigned because of this issue. We kept going back, and I said to them, I will come back every month and testify here until you repeal this thing, because it's awful what they're doing to our kids in terms of dividing them by color. And then could you imagine having a family that was biracial, right? We're going to have brothers and sisters fighting with each other. It's just ridiculous.
It's a very sad situation that has been forced on children. But I want to switch gears a little bit here. Mark, you're a successful entrepreneur and businessman. So I'm going to hazard a guess here. You've made a lot of hiring decisions over time. Okay. And the labor shortage issue, especially skilled labor, is shining some light on what is and is not being taught in colleges. What skills do you think today's college grads are missing, and what should schools be teaching more of or teaching better?
Well, I'm not a big believer in government funded or sponsored workforce development. I believe that we can let the free market and capitalism and freedom and liberty guide that in terms of what schools teach or what companies want. The problem we've got is we have politicized education, especially higher education. So kids are graduating from college or university, and they have no skills that are valuable in the market. We're producing the best educated fast food and retail employees of all time. And that's because the government is involved and politics is involved. If we got politics, if we got government out of the business, and I'm including with that guaranteeing student loans, things would come back into alignment. It's government being active in education that has caused these problems. In terms of the labor shortage, though, it's been exacerbated by Joe Biden's, the Biden administration economic policies, extended unemployment benefits. We've got people sitting on the couch at home that could be working that aren't. And this was a self-inflicted wound. And it's going to take us a long time to get out of it because we've been printing money like Venezuela. We're seeing inflation rise. We can't get people to work. We've got supply chain issues. This was all contrived and self-inflicted. And it's going to take a while to get out of because, I mean, if you think of it, we are heading into hyperinflation. We're going to be like Venezuela. I mean, seriously, you know, we can't get products on the shelf. Neither can they. We can't get toilet paper. Neither can they. And their dollar is worth less literally every hour there. I think they've got what, 2,000 or 3,000% inflation. That's where we're heading. And it's bad economic policy that was put in place so fast by the Biden administration that we're just damaging our own country.
You raise a good point here about the economic ramifications. And, you know, should you be elected to the Senate, you're going to be part of the group making choices about the future of student debt. What do you make of proposals to cancel $10,000, $50,000, all of, none of, some of the existing $1.7 trillion student debt portfolio?
Right. I'd be all for paying it off with money from the universities and the colleges that educated those students. I'm not for paying it off with government money or forgiving it and having taxpayers take it in the chops for that. Just absolutely not. It's a wealth transfer. It's literally communism. It's Bernie Sanders economics, and it just doesn't work. We need personal responsibility. People have to be responsible for their actions. They signed up for this. They need to pay it off. If they got a bad education, that was a bad choice on their part. They should be going back to the schools that gave them that substandard education and be requesting a refund that they can use to pay off their student loans.
It's a conversation that you believe should be happening between schools and students, borrowers, graduates, whatever they are at that moment in time.
Right.
And the government is now a piece of that. So that's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah. Like, think about this. Let me just add this. Sure. Think about this. If the government stopped guaranteeing student loans, what would happen? What would happen is private banks, credit unions, financial institutions would be lending for college. They would want security for that. It would be harder to get loans. That would mean the demand for education would fall for a while. Then universities and colleges would retool. They would get rid of programs that didn't produce didn't produce skills that could be used to support oneself. They would get rid of bloated administration. I mean, we have presidents of universities making millions or tens of millions of dollars a year. That's just ridiculous, right? It's just obscene. So that's what I think we need to do. We need to let the free market and capitalism set the price of education, as well as things like wages and what courses are taught where.
In many states, I believe the highest paid public employee is the college football coach. And look, I love college football as much as the next girl, but that seems like quite an expensive proposition, especially for taxpayers. Now, as you've mentioned, there are so many different pieces of higher education that could use a boost, could use a change, could use trying something new. But I want to know, Mark, what reform do you believe would be the most important and most impactful for colleges to undertake?
Well, I think we talked about it. I think they need to get more focus. If we took government funding out of the picture, they weren't getting grants, they weren't getting special funding, and we made them act more like a business where they had to provide value for money, then I think we would fix the problem. The problem we've got is that these institutions of higher education, you've seen the numbers, Angela. It's what, 90+% of the professors and tenured professors are very, very liberal, right? So they politicized everything at universities. Now, I'm all for free thought and expression and freedom of speech and debate about all sides of issues. But it would seem to me that when you've got an academic staff, a teaching staff that is 90% liberal and seems to be pushing these theories like critical theory or critical race theory, that they are not doing the job that students and parents of students are paying for. So get politics out of it, get government money out of it, and make them responsible for the product that they put out. So that's basically what I think would solve the problem. I don't think it's that complex of an issue.
We talk a lot about the free marketplace of ideas, but a free marketplace for education, as you say, may be able to create a lot of positive changes. Well, there you have it. Mark Pukita, U.S. Senate candidate from Ohio. Thank you for answering 5 big questions.
Thanks for having me.